Hi, this is Martin Drummond with Progressive News. It's Friday, April 5th, 2019. And as usual, I'm going to say something controversial as a progressive. I'm going to tell you that all this stuff with Yemen and Saudi Arabia, it's not all Saudi Arabia's fault. I mean, Americans do not understand this relationship with Saudi Arabia. Okay? Now, personally, I don't trust the Saudi Arabians. I know that they're vehemently anti-Israeli. They want Palestine back under Arab, or they'd love for it to be under Arab control. You know, they consider Jerusalem to be the place where Muhammad rose up to heaven or something, which is all just superstitious nonsense, right? But it's part of their religion, and Saudi Arabia is the most Islamic country in the world. You understand? I mean, that's where the Hajj is, that's where their rock is, that's where everything about Islam is. Okay? So, I have no doubt, even though we don't know, that 9/11 was concocted and, right up to where they did it, planned and everything. Have no doubt. Now, did the Saudi royal family have anything to do with that? Did Saudis in important positions, maybe in intelligence, have something to do with that? Who the fuck knows, right? I mean, it's not like any of them come out and admitted it. And on the other hand, Saudis have the Saudi royal family, and as far as I know, all of people in positions have done everything they could to kill all these. I mean, they beheaded like 100 people. But again, we don't know. We don't know who they beheaded and what evidence they had against them. We don't know if they're just covering up for their complicity in 9/11. We don't know anything. We really don't. And that's because of our stupid-ass CIA that doesn't release any information because they think they're better than everybody else, right? They think they're protecting the investigation, whatever. But I'm going to remind you of some things. A lot of you aren't even old enough to have remembered this stuff. You might have learned about it. But there was a guy, O'Neill. He was I don't think you want to mix him up with the Paul O'Neill who died. There's a couple of O'Neills floating around. One of them died at the World Trade Center, I think. He may be the same guy. Anyway, one of these FBI agents or something went to Yemen and experienced a whole lot of resistance, even from the American ambassador, which I think was a woman at the time, in Yemen. And realized that, and eventually we found out that there was Al-Qaeda in Yemen, that they did the coal bombing. They were probably instrumental in the bombings, and because they're a lot closer to Africa. And being on the edge of Saudi Arabia like that, they've got access to a lot of shipping lanes and stuff. And, well, just take my word for it. I feel like Yemenis I mean, it's odd how a bunch of camel jockeys. I know I shouldn't be using these words, but they're really backwards people in Yemen, and really, they've lived in starvation conditions for decades, for millennia. And I know you think, oh, here's this dumbass American calling Americans dumb. What does he know about it, right? Well, I'm not going to just spew out my entire resume here, but I will tell you that my father, here he is with a bunch of communist Chinese in Saudi Arabia when he was working for Reza, which is Mr. Ali Riza, Muhammad Ali Riza. Here he is with Saudi prince. So he was over there. He went over there in the beginning to build palaces and furnish, interior design and all that for all these princes. And I think this is a Prince Khalid, not the one that became king, but the other one. But basically, my dad got in real close with them, and then once the fighting started in Beirut, he finally ended up getting hired with Mr. Ali Riza, and this is, like I say, see, he was over there working with Osama bin Laden to help raise the Mujahideen to go to Afghanistan. So I was over there. I went over, and when they were living in Saudi Arabia, I was there. And so I'm not going to get into the whole story. I am going to make an autobiography, basically, and I'll make that available to everybody. So you can... I just want you to know, I do have creds. I do know what I'm talking about. And I do have an intuition into this stuff. What got me going on this was this.
We've done so following the lead of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So what the Khashoggi event did was to demonstrate, hey, maybe this isn't a regime that we should just be following that eagerly into battle. So no, I take a different approach toward that than he does, but this is much broader than
that. Okay, so, I do agree that we shouldn't be in Yemen, but the only point I'm trying to make here is that this war on Yemen is part of what started with the Saudi Arabia going after that part of their religion, their culture that did 9/11. It really is. And I'm sure that the Saudi Arabians, that the monarchy, that the king sees the Shia in Yemen as being somehow integral to the really, really vehement hatred of the United States. Now, how he sees that? Well, let's go interview him. Let's go talk to him. And in fact, I do have ties, because of my father, because of who he was. And I'll try and find out. I mean, I'm not... Look, I don't condone any of radical Islam, whether it's hatred of of homosexuals or pushing people off of buildings or things like that. And honestly, I doubt seriously that the King of Saudi Arabia supports all that either. But, well, I'll just come out and say it. I think that you have to give fundamentalists time. I don't think you condone anything they do. I don't think you, invade Saudi Arabia either to try and resolve the situation. And at the same time, I don't feel like it's right to let the horror go on, to stand back and I think some real, maybe this international court that we're telling to go to hell now, or something. We need to bring monumental pressure on fundamentalist countries for the human rights situation. Absolutely. The Muslim fundies, they need to find out what the limits of the international community are on homosexuals. You can't just kill them. And I don't see us taking them in either. I mean, we should be taking them as refugees, right? So look, I just think that, my job, in my opinion, as a journalist, is to try to help progressives understand the world, right? We live in this big, complex world, right? And I want to help you understand it. And when I don't understand it, I'll tell you. And if you understand something about it, you tell me, so that I can put it into my news. Because I want to have the absolute best commentary, editorials on the news as possible. Why? Because I'm trying to give something back to the progressive movement, to the people who make up the progressive movement. I'm trying to learn as much as I can and combine it with my experience, which I lived. Like I said, I'll make up like an autobiography, kind of a resume, what have you. And give that back. I'm trying to make myself, with my intuition and everything, and all my experience and all my studying, I just constantly watch and read all the stuff. And I still talk to a lot of people. I'll spend 4 or 5 hours sitting here talking with some, Pakistani Muslim. You can look in my friends list. You're all welcome. You're all friends of mine, people who watch the show. And you'll see all kinds of people in there, all kinds of different people from all around the world. And I keep them as my friends because they get into chat with me and they talk to me about about what's going on from their perspective. So that's how I keep up with things other than just watching the news like anybody else, right? I also have personal contacts from old friends. I have all kinds of old friends from Lebanon and Indonesia, and not so much Indonesia anymore because they were all most of them were just oil related people. Didn't have time in Indonesia. I was only there for 14 months. to make all the connections that I made in the Middle East. So I'm trying to bring that perspective, and the perspective that I got when I watched this.
I approach it differently. I approach the whole topic differently than he has. For our purposes relevant here, focused on the war effort. As Senator Sanders said just a minute ago, this is not just about Khashoggi, it's about much more than that. What the Khashoggi event did, I think, was to focus on the fact that we have been led into this civil war in Yemen, half a world away, into a conflict in which few Americans that I know can articulate what American national security interest is at stake.
Okay, that's what triggered me on this segment is, well, I think that the national security interests that, whether it's at stake or not, I don't know, but I would say that what it is that Yemen is a hotbed of terrorism. That we didn't just get 9/11 out of Yemen. We got a lot of stuff out of Yemen. And we got a lot of resistance. The FBI got a lot of resistance going in there. And I think that the Bushes were embarrassed. I don't know. I mean, were they complicit? They certainly were moving around money for terrorists and things like that through a CIA bank in Washington, D.C. That transferred money at the behest of Prince Bandar's wife, transferred $100,000 through that CIA bank, and George, one of the Bushes, was CEO of the bank, and he pushed it through, and it went to Muhammad Atta. Okay, so there's a lot of things that raise a lot of eyebrows, but honestly, what I know about the Bushes, and in Houston, my girlfriend grew up in the house next door to them. Okay, she told me a lot of things about the Bushes, and honestly, I think they're just stupid. I mean, you don't have to be smart to run the CIA. You don't have to be smart to get rich. You don't have to be smart to get powerful. All you have to do is be evil. I mean, I hate to say that, but all you have to do is be bad. Once you combine your family fortune or your family connections with a willingness to just ignore all the horror that comes out of your consequences, right? So torture in Iraq, Abu Ghraib, and murder, just sending American troops down streets in Afghanistan and Iraq, just shooting people. I mean, the troops used to brag about how they used to play this game where they would just shoot somebody. It was just a game for them. Just some poor person, poor Iraqi or Afghan, walking down the street. Okay, bang. Ha ha ha, very funny. I mean, this is the horror of these wars. Americans shouldn't even be there, let alone with guns and... I mean, so to me, the Bushes are just stupid, right? All of them. Smartest one I've looked at is Barbara Bush, and of course she didn't really run things, but the boys and their father, just a bunch of idiots. And I don't think they saw 9/11 coming. I don't think that they purposely allowed it to happen. I mean, I think they saw the possibility of it hitting the World Trade Center, but they didn't know what was going to happen or who was going to do it, and they didn't really think that their friends, because that's the thing is, you know, my dad was working with all those people. They are all our friends. We had made friends with them, and I don't think the Bushes thought that our friends were going to do anything, and I don't really believe that our friends did do anything. I don't think that anybody told them, hey, we're going to get 20 guys together and we're going to fly planes into the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. That's not to say that there weren't people in, I suspect, Saudi intelligence combined with Pakistani ISI intelligence. I suspect them, but I don't think they told anybody else. And I think that that's why you got this huge, on the part of the Saudi royals, the king for sure right now, I think that's why you got this huge blowback and this war, and even to the point where kills one of my best friend's cousins, Jamal Khashoggi, because the royal family and the Saudi intelligence that is not involved with Saudi Arabia is so focused on making sure that there's not another 9/11 that they actually are willing to kill people who promote an atmosphere that would result in another 9/11. So, again, I don't know. As much as I know, and I know a lot, you know, and I'm familiar with a lot of the stuff that, and the people, and I'm connected to a lot of the people involved. As much as I know, I can tell you I don't know. You know, how involved Saudi royals and intelligence and the Bushes, Cheneys, Rumsfelds, I don't know. But I'm going to tell you I doubt that they had anything to do with it. I think it's more just stupidity. But this segment is about that national security interest that he says he can't understand why we're backing Saudi Arabia. Well, Trump, Bush, Obama, none of them will come out and say what that is. So I'm trying to fill in the blank for you there. You know, so Obama would have the nerve to kill an American citizen and his son, an American citizen, with a drone strike. Why? They won't tell you. All they'll tell you is that, well, we think that, and that was in Yemen, I believe. We think that he was, you know, Al-Qaeda. Okay. So, in a way, they have been telling you, you know, what they've been doing. Just maybe nobody wants to believe them. I wish that all this was out in the open, because I don't want people like Obama, establishment Democrats, or Republicans running my country. And that's part of the reason, because of a total lack of transparency. We wouldn't be sitting here listening to me try and explain it if they would fully explain just exactly what this war on terror is all about, and why, you know, the fact that they don't explain why we're supporting Saudis in Yemen is the reason that we don't know. As Americans, we're just like clueless, and so now we're getting ready to possibly make a mistake because maybe our elected leaders are, I mean, Bernie's a great guy. But Bernie, what is this story? I mean, you're privy to all these, or maybe you're not privy to all the information. And if you're not, don't you think you should be? And I'm sure he would step up right now and say, yes, give me the information so I can make a proper decision. And without that information, this is what they have to do. They have to try to stop all this madness, right? That we consider madness, and we do, because the big question is always when somebody won't tell you why they're doing something, won't give you all the information, then you have to assume that they're doing something they shouldn't do, and that they don't want to give you the information, not because it would hurt what they're trying to do, if it was a good thing, but because they don't want you to know that they're doing a bad thing. Okay. Yeah, I know, it's really convoluted and turns around and twists around, but I think that's basically where you get things like this, and I don't disagree with them. I mean, if we trust these guys, because they're supposed to get the information and they're supposed to make the decisions, so we're assuming that they know stuff that we don't know, and that's how it's supposed to work. In fact, I don't believe it works at all. I think that the way to make these decisions is for these people to give us the information and let the people weigh in on whether they want to bomb the Shia and, the Hudaydah and, well, I can't think of all the names of the different groups, but anyway, whether we want to bomb them. I mean, in the end, the blood is on our hands too. We pay our taxes. We know our taxes go to bombs dropped on children in school buses and the purposeful starvation of people and all that stuff. We know it. It's just that we can't do anything about it. And we don't even know whether we should do something about it or not, because we don't have any of the information. I say let the chips fall where they may. Give us the information. And these guys, I don't even believe. I mean, Bernie, I don't think he knows everything. I'm sure he knows a lot more than I do about what the CIA is up to and stuff. I don't know. I don't think he's on any particular committee or anything, but there's other Democrats who are, and he caucuses with them. And these guys, Republicans, I mean, some of them may be on the intelligence committees. Or maybe these are all the guys who are in the dark. See? That's how ridiculous a lot of this is. We don't know. I mean, I'd have to spend hours and hours and hours looking into each individual congressman or senator to figure out what the fuck is going on. Alright. This is Martin Drummond with Progressive News, trying to sort out something. Don't be too hard on me, because you have to understand that this is really vague and incomprehensible stuff because of the there's all sorts of information one way or the other, right? So it's not like I'm going to be able to come on here and explain it all to you. I mean, I could act like that. I could get on here like most of the pundits I see and say, I know what the story, I know what the truth is, I know, everything. I'm smarter than everybody, and I may be smarter than everybody. As a matter of fact, the fact that I'm telling you that it's confusing and vague and everything, that probably is a good indication that I am a little smarter than the people who get on here and, you know, what? They've spent all their life in the United States sitting behind a computer and talking to other Americans, maybe even getting to talk to Bernie Sanders or some other. So that gives them the right to pretend like they actually know what they're talking about. Well, I think I know a lot more than most of them know, but I'm not going to get on here and tell you that I've got it all figured out, because I don't. Matter of fact, fucking Middle East, and I lived in Lebanon for 4.5 years, and I lived in Indonesia, I lived in Saudi Arabia, went to the best schools, all that crap, surrounded by neocons. I was a member of the Khashoggi family. By the way, that's how Americans say their names. It's not Khashoggi. Okay? That's how Americans pretend like they know how to pronounce somebody's names. Sure, an Arab might call them Khashoggi or whatever, but in English it's Khashoggi. I mean, I actually lived with these people, okay? So, I was actually there when they decided how they wanted to spell the name, and they were going to spell it K-H-O whatever, but then they left out the H because Americans don't go ha ha ha, they go ka. So they named themselves in the United States Khashoggi. All right, I'm done.